Hi, my name is Megan Castro, and I'm a professional dancer. I was born and raised in South Carolina in the United States and went on to study contemporary dance in North Carolina. After graduating college, shortly after a year, came the pandemic in 2020, and I used this time, this feeling of being disconnected from the world and the dance world specifically, to start my own movement research. I decided to do a daily movement practice and post them each day, calling it Quarantine Day 1. Originally, I was only going to do it for 2 weeks, and then that ended up being 100 days later. After 100 days of quarantine, I decided to change the title and go to Movement Journal Entry 1. And almost 1,000 entries later, I'm still loving it every day, finding new, unique, authentic movement, creativity, exploration. It's something very meditative for me. And it's been so inspiring being able to share my own practice every day. I don't know if I can put a finger on the specific point in time when I knew I wanted to be a dancer. I think it was just something I always loved to do. Probably everyone else noticed that I wanted to be a dancer, or knew that I would be a dancer first. I know I just really loved it, and it was always the one thing I was so excited to do. I almost couldn't wait for summer vacation to be over, not for regular school, but just so I could go back to dance class. I do remember, however, whenever I was young, that I guess the other little dancers, I think I was maybe like 5, they weren't doing what they were supposed to be doing on stage, and I was getting mad at them and like putting my hands on my hips trying to show them what they were supposed to be doing. And I don't know, maybe that was just me being bossy, or maybe that was just me being very passionate about dance, but I don't know, it's definitely just something that I've always loved, and that love just continued all the way up until university. And then I realized that, oh wow, this can be something I can do the rest of my life. And I was just so thrilled that I had also the support of my family and friends that I could actually pursue this kind of unique and not so common career path. So, as I had mentioned before, I had started doing my quarantine and movement journal posts due to the pandemic. I never really posted so much on social media before, but I felt that when the pandemic came and I was home and alone, that doing this daily practice could help, keep me connected to my own dancing, my own movement and creativity, and as well as being able to share it with others. I'd only planned on doing the quarantine post for 2 weeks, and then I just fell in love with this daily practice. It was the first time I ever felt like I could really do whatever I wanted to, dance-wise and creativity-wise. I had always been under a director or a teacher or a mentor, and it was a very freeing feeling to be able to have this thought of being able to create whatever I wanted to and felt like doing that day. I didn't really know or expect to plan on how long I was going to continue doing movement journals. I did also switch with this movement journal idea that I could add other elements to it. I'm very much inspired by nature, so I started dancing outside, or adding videos of candle flames and other things I was just inspired by, just daily occurrences. I also didn't want to force myself to have this daily post, but it almost became something I could not do. Even the days that maybe I missed posting, I still danced every day. So it's still something that I always do, even if it's not always shared. But I do really love to be able to share my creativity and ideas with everyone each day. And I don't know, there's a feeling of vulnerability that comes with that. And I don't know, I think people really responded well to the authenticity and the not trying to be anyone else, especially on a site that is always so much involved with a superficial or artificial post, that it's nice to get something very pure and real. Many people ask me about the whole music situation. When I first started, I did use music a bit more often. I think it was just because this is a norm and it's not really common for you to take a dance class without music. So that's just how I started. And then I realized, I'm not sure when the first time I didn't use music, but I realized when I didn't use music that I could find a more genuine flow. Whenever I used music, I was trying to dance to the music. Well, I guess trying would be a wrong word. It's more of unconsciously or just automatically my body would start to keep up or slow down or, find the rhythm in the music, which is also a beautiful practice. But for what I realized I wanted to try to accomplish with these movement journals, this was not going to be a way to progress finding my own flow within the movement. So I decided to stop using music. Nowadays, I sometimes will overlap, like I'll use movement journals without music, and then I'll try to put music on top of it, which is kind of a fun practice just because sometimes the music aligns actually quite well, and it's a bit shocking to myself to see it kind of combine like that. So it's really cool to see two art forms combine, even though they weren't created together at all. So that's been really fun, and also a really cool discovery for myself about the non-music situation. Elsewise, again, I do usually spend about 30 minutes every day doing my movement journals, sometimes outside, sometimes inside. It's much easier inside, I will say. Outside can be a bit more difficult with the sun and the wind and the imbalanced floor, but I don't know. I think it's the days that I'm really feeling an incredible amount of confidence and inspiration that I like to go outside, and whenever the nature around me is inspiring me, like when it's windy or stormy or I don't know, something that has movement in it. When the nature around me has life, I feel more inspired to want to dance outside as well with it. Another question I get a lot about my movement journals is the space that I'm moving in. And obviously it's going to vary depending on where I am in the world. But the most common one that people identify a movement journal with is the window and the wooden floor. This would actually be where I moved to right when the pandemic was starting. So my family had moved and everything was bare in the house, so we hadn't had any furniture yet. So when I saw this room, I immediately was like, okay, we're not putting anything in this room. I'm going to dedicate this room to my dance space / bedroom. So for a very, very, very long time, I just had a roll up mattress pad situation. And I would just roll it up every day after I slept, and then I'd have this entire beautiful space to dance in. So that kind of became my my iconic little spot. So I first started dancing whenever I was pretty young. My mom and dad had put me into dance classes. Nothing really serious, just tap, jazz, hip hop, ballet, like just fun classes for an after-school activity. I also even did other sports. I cheerlead, I did soccer and basketball. I tried lots of different things, but I always just came back to dancing. I honestly didn't really dance a ton growing up. I came from a small town, so I danced as much as I could get my hands on classes, but it wasn't as accessible to have lots of different styles or higher level training. But I sought out as much as I could, and I eventually then went to university and studied contemporary dance in university, which I didn't even know that anyone could do that. I was so excited to be able to continue studying dance and pursue it as my career. I don't think it was until maybe near the end of my high school that I realized that I could actually be a professional dancer, or try to at least. It was actually my last audition for university, and I was kind of like a little bit at the last resort situation because I hadn't been accepted in anywhere for both yet. And I did an audition at the North Carolina School of the Arts, and to my surprise, I actually got in, and fortunately got in academically and dance-wise, and I was so thrilled because that was probably the one school I didn't think I was going to get into out of all of them. And I went into college not super confident in my abilities. I knew that I was not as trained as everyone else, and I didn't know that much about dance as everyone else. But I think I just was like a sponge once I got to school, and I just soaked it all up and just took it in. And then I was able to go and experience opportunities abroad as well with all this information, and I just craved more knowledge and more dance experience. I absolutely loved it. I used the summers in between school to also take other programs. I studied in New York and San Francisco. I even had the opportunity to study in Japan, which was absolutely amazing. This kind of led me to want to study dance in other countries. I was actually able to use my last semester in college to study abroad in Israel, and that was a beautiful experience as well. So I'm very fortunate for all the opportunities that my school gave me. And then I was able to graduate and explore dance everywhere, and just take in all the different cultures and ideas and all the different dance forms. So in addition to all of my improv and daily research, I have had the opportunity to choreograph myself, some solos, as well as work with a choreographer in Vienna. He's a director of Tense Company Gerbasi. I was very privileged to work with him in 2020. He found me actually through my movement journals, and I loved working with him. I've done 3 works with him so far. Each one has been incredibly unique and special. All of his work is based off of improvisation ideas, so it was a perfect match. As far as my own work, it's hard to say what my favorite is. I've done obviously a lot of solo work, but I have choreographed a little bit for some other people. Whenever I was in Israel, I got the opportunity to choreograph on some other dancers, as well as when I was in university. And each one's really unique. Some have more to do with emotion, some have more to do with elements. I'm very much inspired by like wind, fire, earth, air, water, and I use this a lot in my creativity and all of my movement. As a professional dancer, dancing can be very taxing on your body and your mind. It's definitely as much of a mental strength as it is physical. Fortunately, I feel like a lot of burnout comes from having been exposed too much at an early age and almost being forced to do it out of not wanting from your own will. I did not experience this growing up, and I felt like I had the opportunities to be a kid and do other things. So by the time I got to college, I maybe wasn't as well trained, but I had more of a hunger for it. So mentally, I was 100% there and ready. But again, as I continued realizing that, I'm going to be dancing every day and this is my life, there are many times whenever it can feel a bit overwhelming. But I do actually feel like finding this movement journal practice has helped me mentally as well as physically. It is one of those things that maybe I'm getting frustrated or about dance or about life or anything, or not feeling motivated or inspired. And I just feel like even if I give myself just a simple 10 minutes, it could even be 2 minutes actually, like if I just dance a little bit every day, and especially whenever I'm feeling a little bit foggy in my mind, that it almost automatically clears up all those bad thoughts and ideas. That it kind of reminds me every day why I love to do what I do. So I'm very fortunate to have found an outlet for this. And as far as physically, I do also a lot of cross training in addition to my daily practice. My daily movement practice can last anywhere between, as I said, 10 minutes to 30 minutes to an hour. It just kind of depends on the day and how much time I have. But other than that, I really try to start my day with a simple yoga practice, and maybe ending my day with a softer yoga stretching sequence. I also will do some Pilates. I haven't really been able to take a ton of dance classes lately. I've just not been in the correct area for it, but fortunately there are so many classes online. I just wanted to speak out to all the dancers or artists out there that maybe feel discouraged or discouraged at times because of a ton amount of pressure and maybe rejection from their jobs or community. I just wanted to reassure you that it is okay to feel this. It is very common. The only thing that matters is that you are creating and that you still love it. That rejection comes with this art form. I mean, I've been rejected so many times. I don't think I got one job from an audition ever before. The only jobs I've ever gotten have actually just been by the luck of people finding my page on Instagram, which I love that because then they're hiring me for me and not for some face that I had to put on. But again, it can be difficult. I just encourage you to pursuing it in your most pure and authentic way so that when you do get a job or when someone does see your art, they will be attracted to you and not just this idea of what you think that you should be sharing. For people at home who maybe don't have a lot of exposure to dance or maybe have never danced before in their life, I feel like if anyone, that's who I love to connect to the most. I love it when people message me about not being a dancer, but really wanting to or being inspired by the movement they're seeing me do. And I think there's something about my movement journals that have maybe helped other people as well as myself realize the imperfections or the things that maybe you don't see are always broadcasted, that those things are actually what make a person and the movement interesting and unique. It's not always about the tricks and the pointed feet and the high legs and the jumps. Sometimes it's just about finding a flow and connecting with that in whatever way you can. I also love there have been more and more dance classes available to take online. They're always a little bit more difficult, not as personal as taking them in person. But for people who don't have the opportunities or the exposure or the place to go and take dance, I think this is perfect. I know that I always really loved taking the Gaga classes that they offered online during the pandemic. And I think now they even have like little quick Gaga classes that anyone can take, and they only last about like 15 or 20 minutes. So if you just need a quick little release from your sitting job or your day job, then I would definitely check into that because that sounds really cool to me. I'm very fortunate that these movement journals have also allowed me to share my choreography, my dancing, my creativity to people all over the world. It's allowed me to reach out to other choreographers and directors and dancers. This is also leading me to my next job in Switzerland. I'll be dancing and semi-choreographing a bit with the director there. So I'm very excited about this new opportunity to continue sharing my work, but with another group of beautiful dancers. And as far as my movement journal goes, many people are asking me, are you ever stopping? When's the last post? And all I can say is I have no idea. It's something, like I said, a very meditative and personal daily practice for me. And whether I keep posting it or not, it's definitely something I'm going to continue to do every day. And I don't know, I really enjoy sharing it and spreading a little bit more creativity and art into the world.